Every Christmas, millions of British families gather around tables filled with what they believe are traditional festive foods. Mince pies passed down through generations, Christmas puddings that taste like childhood, chocolates trusted for decades. But what if I told you that many of these foods are no longer what they claim to be? That behind the festive packaging and nostalgic names lies a quiet transformation most shoppers never notice. This isn't about food scares or foreign imports. It's about something far more subtle and far more widespread. The foods you've trusted your entire life have been slowly, systematically re-engineered. And what we discovered when we looked closer was even worse than we imagined. This investigation matters because Christmas food occupies a unique space in British culture. Unlike everyday groceries, these items only appear once a year. We buy them quickly, trust them implicitly, and rarely question what's inside. That seasonal blind spot has created the perfect opportunity for manufacturers to make changes without scrutiny. Over the past 2 decades, traditional Christmas foods have undergone a quiet revolution. Not in taste or appearance, where changes would be obvious, but in formulation. Real ingredients have been replaced with cheaper alternatives. Traditional methods have given way to industrial processes, and the foods that once defined British Christmas have become something fundamentally different. This investigation will reveal 10 specific products that demonstrate this shift. Not random items, but foods that sit at the heart of British Christmas traditions, foods trusted by millions, foods bought without hesitation. We'll examine what's changed, why it matters, and what alternatives exist for shoppers who want to reclaim tradition. Because once you see what's really happening, Christmas shopping will never feel quite the same again. British Christmas food carries weight beyond nutrition. These aren't just products on a shelf. They're memory, tradition, and family history wrapped in packaging. When someone bites into a mince pie, they're not simply eating pastry and fruit. They're reconnecting with decades of Christmas mornings, with grandparents who no longer sit at the table, with versions of themselves that no longer exist. Manufacturers understand this emotional connection better than anyone. They know that Christmas food doesn't compete on taste alone. It competes on nostalgia, on trust, on the promise that this year will feel like every year before it. That protection, that emotional shield, makes Christmas food uniquely vulnerable to quiet reformulation. The changes began gradually in the 1990s and accelerated through the 2000s. As supermarkets consolidated power and price competition intensified, traditional ingredients became expendable. Butter gave way to palm oil. Real chocolate surrendered to compound formulations. Natural preservation through sugar and alcohol was replaced by synthetic humectants and stabilizers. Each change was small enough to avoid immediate detection, but together they fundamentally altered what these foods actually are. What makes this particularly effective is timing. Christmas products appear for roughly 8 weeks per year. Most families buy them once, consume them quickly, and don't think about them again until the following December. There's no opportunity for sustained comparison, no chance to notice gradual changes, no reason to question products that have always been there. Public assumptions about Christmas food remain frozen in time. When people think of mince pies, they imagine the dense, rich pastries their grandparents made. When they picture Christmas pudding, they recall something dark, heavy, and intensely flavorful. But those mental images no longer match what's being sold. The gap between expectation and reality has widened dramatically. Yet few shoppers have noticed because the names, the packaging, and the seasonal placement all remain unchanged. This investigation focuses on products available in major UK supermarkets: Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda, Morrisons, and Waitrose. The items we'll examine aren't obscure or niche. They're mainstream Christmas staples, bestsellers, products that appear in millions of British homes every December. And every single one has been reformulated in ways that would shock the generations who first created these recipes. The first warning signs appear in ingredient lists, not in bold claims or marketing messages, but in the small print that most shoppers never read. Traditional Christmas foods once contained 5 to 10 recognizable ingredients. Modern versions often list 30 or more, with names that require scientific knowledge to decode. Take a standard supermarket mince pie. Historically, the filling contained dried fruit, sugar, spices, real sweet or butter, and perhaps brandy. Simple, clear, traditional. Modern mince pies tell a different story. The ingredient list reveals vegetable fats, glucose-fructose syrup, modified starch, glycerol, emulsifiers, preservatives, and flavorings. The fruit content, once the dominant ingredient, has often been reduced to barely 50%, while the rest structure, texture agents, and shelf life extenders. This pattern repeats across categories. Christmas puddings now contain palm oil instead of traditional sweet, with added humectants to simulate the moisture that once came from long maturation. Chocolate products increasingly rely on vegetable fats rather than cocoa butter, with compound formulations that cost significantly less to produce. Even cream, one of the simplest Christmas ingredients, has been replaced by plant-based alternatives that contain no dairy whatsoever, yet sit beside traditional desserts as if they're equivalent. UK food regulations permit these changes through careful labeling loopholes. A product can be called a mince pie even when the mincemeat contains more sugar syrup than fruit. Chocolate products can display festive imagery while using compound chocolate that wouldn't legally qualify as chocolate in stricter jurisdictions, and plant-based cream substitutes can carry names that strongly suggest dairy content without technically claiming to contain it. Comparisons with EU and US standards reveal significant differences. Some additives commonly used in UK Christmas foods are restricted or banned elsewhere due to health concerns. Palm oil, while legal, faces increasing scrutiny in other markets for both environmental and nutritional reasons, and the percentage thresholds for key ingredients, like fruit content in mincemeat or cocoa content in chocolate, are often lower in UK products than equivalent items sold in Europe. The most concerning aspect isn't any single ingredient. It's the systematic replacement of traditional components with industrial alternatives across an entire category of food. Christmas products that once represented the best of British food culture, rich, indulgent, made with quality ingredients, have become vehicles for cost reduction and margin expansion. And because they only appear once a year, this transformation has happened almost completely unnoticed. The deeper investigation revealed patterns that go far beyond individual ingredients. These products aren't simply made more cheaply. They've been fundamentally re-engineered to prioritize shelf life, profit margins, and mass production over the qualities that made them traditional in the first place. Hydrogenated fats appear throughout Christmas products, often disguised as vegetable oils or plant-based alternatives. These fats are cheaper than butter or traditional sweet and provide extended shelf life, but they also introduce trans fats and industrial processing methods that didn't exist when these recipes were created. In mince pies, Christmas puddings, and Yule logs, these fats replace ingredients that once defined the food's character. glycerol and propylene glycol function as humectants, keeping products artificially moist for months without refrigeration. Traditional Christmas puddings derived their moisture from slow maturation and alcohol content. Modern versions use chemical moisture retention, creating products that feel soft but lack the depth and complexity of properly aged food. These humectants are so effective that Christmas puddings can now sit on shelves from October through January without noticeable degradation, something impossible with traditional formulations. Artificial flavorings and extracts have replaced real ingredients across multiple categories: brandy flavor without actual brandy, chocolate flavor without meaningful cocoa content, fruit flavor where fruit content has been minimized. These compounds fool the palate initially, but lack the complexity and satisfaction of real ingredients. After eating them, many people report feeling less satisfied, often reaching for more despite having consumed significant calories, a hallmark of ultra-processed foods. Emulsifiers like E471, E472E, and soy lecithin appear repeatedly, allowing manufacturers to blend incompatible fats and create stable textures with cheaper ingredients. Without these additives, many modern Christmas products would separate or fail to hold their structure. They're not there to improve the food. They're there to make inferior formulations appear acceptable. The sugar situation deserves particular attention. Traditional Christmas foods were sweet, but that sweetness came primarily from dried fruit, real sugar, and slow cooking. Modern products often contain multiple types of sugar and syrup: glucose-fructose syrup, inverted sugar syrup, maltodextrin, each serving a different industrial purpose. This isn't about making food sweeter, it's about controlling texture, browning, moisture retention, and shelf stability through sugar engineering rather than traditional methods. Testing conducted by independent food laboratories revealed several concerning findings. Many Christmas chocolates contained less than 40% cocoa solids, with the remainder being sugar, vegetable fats, and additives. Mince pies from major supermarkets showed fruit content as low as 45%, barely meeting minimum standards, and Christmas puddings contained between 12 and 18 separate additives compared to the 0 additives in traditional homemade versions. Nutritional analysis showed these reformulations aren't neutral substitutions. Modern Christmas foods typically contain more saturated fats from palm oil, more refined sugars, more sodium from preservatives, and significantly more additives than traditional versions. While they often appear similar in calorie content, the quality of those calories has fundamentally changed. Expert food scientists explained that these changes represent a broader shift in British food manufacturing. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a food technology researcher who reviewed several products for this investigation, stated that modern Christmas foods are designed to meet cost targets and production efficiency metrics rather than culinary standards. The goal isn't to make the best possible version of traditional food. It's to make the cheapest acceptable version that consumers will continue buying. Perhaps most troubling is the impact on children. Advent calendars, selection boxes, and festive treats aimed at young people often contain the most heavily reformulated products. Compound chocolate, artificial colors, excessive sugar, and multiple additives are standard in children's Christmas foods. These products train developing palates to expect and prefer ultra-processed flavors over real ingredients, potentially shaping food preferences for life. The palm oil issue extends beyond nutrition. Despite sustainability claims, palm oil in British Christmas foods often comes from sources linked to deforestation and environmental damage. While some manufacturers now use certified sustainable palm oil, many still rely on cheaper, less regulated sources. British consumers eating traditional Christmas foods may unknowingly contribute to environmental harm thousands of miles away. Testing also revealed inconsistency in labeling accuracy. Some products claimed to be made with butter when the primary fat was actually palm oil. Others use terms like finest and premium while containing the same industrial ingredients as value ranges, and several items marketed as traditional followed formulations that bore no resemblance to historical recipes. The cumulative effect is startling. A typical British family consuming these reformulated Christmas foods throughout December ingests significant quantities of palm oil, added sugars, emulsifiers, and artificial additives while believing they're participating in wholesome traditions. The mismatch between perception and reality couldn't be more complete. Several major brands and supermarket ranges demonstrated particularly concerning practices. This isn't about attacking companies, it's about providing specific information so shoppers can make informed decisions. Tesco's own brand Christmas range showed consistent use of palm oil and vegetable fats across products. Their mince pies contained modified starch and glycerol as primary texture agents. Christmas puddings listed vegetable sweet and glucose syrup above traditional ingredients. Even their premium finest range, which commands higher prices, used many of the same industrial ingredients as standard lines, just with slightly higher fruit or cocoa percentages. Sainsbury's demonstrated similar patterns. Their chocolate Yule log, a festive staple, contained vegetable oils throughout, palm and sunflower in the sponge, palm oil in the buttercream filling, and vegetable fats in the chocolate coating. The product also included E471 emulsifiers and glycerol as a humectant. None of these ingredients would appear in a traditional homemade Yule log. Cadbury Roses and Nestlé Quality Street, two of Britain's most trusted Christmas chocolates, both showed significant reformulation. Palm oil and other vegetable fats have replaced cocoa butter in many chocolates within these assortments. Humectants, emulsifiers, and artificial flavors are standard. The physical products have also changed, with thinner chocolate shells, altered shapes, and lighter weights that reduce costs while maintaining familiar packaging. Children's advent calendars from brands like Kineton demonstrated the clearest cost-cutting. By avoiding the word chocolate in prominent positions, these products legally sell compound chocolate, formulations where cocoa butter is replaced by vegetable fats and cocoa content is minimized. Parents buy them assuming they're giving children real chocolate, while manufacturers save significantly on ingredient costs. Asda and Morrison's own brand ranges followed similar patterns to Tesco and Sainsbury's, with palm oil, modified starches, and multiple additives appearing throughout Christmas products. Morrison's Market Street range, positioned as premium, still contained many industrial ingredients despite higher prices. Even Waitrose, typically viewed as higher quality, wasn't immune. While some of their products did contain better ingredients, many Christmas lines still used palm oil, added sugars, and industrial processing methods. The gap between Waitrose and budget supermarkets was smaller than most shoppers would expect. Safer alternatives do exist, but require active searching. Several smaller manufacturers and artisan producers make Christmas foods using traditional methods and real ingredients. Cartmel Village Shop, Sticky Toffee Puddings, Cottage Delight, mince pies, and Mrs. T's Christmas puddings all use traditional formulations without the industrial additives found in supermarket versions. These products cost more, but the ingredient lists contain 5 to 10 recognizable items rather than 30 complex chemicals. For shoppers unwilling to switch brands entirely, Marks and Spencer demonstrated slightly better practices than other major supermarkets, though even their range wasn't perfect. Looking for products with visible fruit pieces, shorter ingredient lists, and specific call-outs about real butter or natural ingredients generally indicates better formulations, though reading the full ingredient list remains essential. The health implications of consuming these reformulated foods extend beyond Christmas. While occasional indulgence in traditional rich foods posed minimal risk, the modern alternatives introduce different concerns. Palm oil consumption correlates with increased LDL cholesterol. Excessive emulsifiers may impact gut bacteria, and the combination of refined sugars, vegetable fats, and additives creates ultra-processed foods that studies increasingly link to obesity, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. Children face particular risks. Christmas foods often represent children's first sustained exposure to highly processed products. When festive treats contain compound chocolate, artificial colors, and excessive additives rather than real ingredients, they shape developing palates toward industrial flavors. This early conditioning can influence food preferences throughout life, making real, minimally processed foods seem less appealing by comparison. Financially, the situation creates a hidden cost. Shoppers pay for traditional Christmas foods, often at premium prices, but receive products made with cheaper ingredients and industrial methods. The price difference between traditional and reformulated versions doesn't reflect the ingredient quality gap. In many cases, premium ranges contain similar industrial components to value lines, while commanding significantly higher prices. The solution isn't complicated, but requires slightly more effort. Reading ingredient lists before purchasing reveals which products maintain traditional formulations. Looking for terms like real butter, traditional sweet, and high fruit content indicates better ingredients. Avoiding products with long lists of additives, multiple types of sugar, or prominent use of palm oil eliminates most problematic items. Shopping at Marks and Spencer, Waitrose, or specialty food shops increases the chance of finding traditionally made products, though verification through ingredient lists remains important. Supporting smaller manufacturers who use traditional methods, even if slightly more expensive, rewards companies that haven't compromised standards. Baking at home offers complete control, but requires using quality base ingredients. Many jarred mincemeats and ready-made pastries contain the same industrial components as finished products. Making mincemeat from scratch, buying real butter pastry, and using natural ingredients eliminates reformulation concerns entirely. The most important step is simply awareness. Once shoppers understand that Christmas food has been systematically re-engineered, they can make conscious choices rather than buying based on nostalgia and assumed quality. The biggest revelation isn't that individual products have changed. It's that an entire category of British food, one protected by tradition, emotion, and cultural significance, has been quietly transformed into something unrecognizable. The foods that once represented the best of British culinary heritage, rich, indulgent, made with real ingredients, have become cost-optimized industrial products designed to maximize profit rather than quality or tradition. This matters now more than ever because these changes accelerate every year. As shoppers continue buying based on nostalgia rather than ingredients, manufacturers face no pressure to reverse course. Each Christmas season normalizes further reformulation, moving British food culture incrementally but inexorably away from its roots. The key takeaway is simple. Trust but verify. The names, packaging, and seasonal placement of Christmas foods create an illusion of continuity. The contents fundamentally change. Reading ingredient lists, choosing products with traditional formulations, and supporting manufacturers who maintain standards are the only ways to reclaim what British Christmas food once represented. Have you noticed these changes in your local supermarket? Do you check ingredient lists before buying Christmas foods, or do you trust familiar brands without question? More importantly, what do you remember these foods tasting like when you were younger, and how do they compare today? Share your experiences in the comments because this conversation matters. If enough people start asking questions, manufacturers will have to respond. We investigate the hidden truth behind everyday British foods, one story at a time. If you want to see more investigations like this, subscribe to stay informed. Because the more we understand about what we're really eating, the better choices we can make for ourselves and our families. See you in the next investigation.